Today, we're going to talk about a bizarre story. It's about a family of 4 preparing to go to their grandma's for Christmas. While passing through a forest road, they encountered some very strange things. What happened? It was as if they were haunted. No matter how they walked, they couldn't reach the end of the road, like being trapped in a maze. When they finally encountered something truly frightening, they realized it wasn't what they thought. This road actually had another. In the car were 4 family members: the driver Lama and his wife Laura, their son Shama, their daughter Shali, and Jolly's boyfriend Aji. The young classmate Xiaoma is the youngest, a bit cheeky and mischievous, doesn't really get along with this nominal brother-in-law, and keeps giving him trouble along the way because he feels the two seem to be on the verge of breaking up, even if they're not showing it. You see, even with Xiaoma complaining along the way, Laoma is still extremely sleepy, his eyelids are drooping, and he almost can't keep going. Midway, he nearly crashed into a car. What happened? This road is long and foul-smelling. Who? When they reached a fork in the road, almost at his grandmother's house, Old Ma decided to take a shortcut, and if nothing unexpected happened, they would arrive in 20 minutes. But things often don't go as planned, and in horror movies, that's exactly when things tend to go wrong. But something just had to happen, so as they moved forward, not far ahead, they encountered a hitchhiking woman in white, with injuries on her face, looking panicked, and holding a baby in her arms. She appeared as if she'd just escaped from a serial killer. Old Ma quickly stopped the car. In this desolate place, leaving a woman and child without help would truly be unspeakable. Something strange was that this woman didn't speak, as if she was scared stiff. No matter what you asked her, she wouldn't say a word. Her eyes were just sparkling, filled with a plea for help. The first instinct was to call the police. But in horror movies, as everyone knows, the phone has no signal. So Old Ma decided to quickly get them in the car. They had just passed a ranger's cabin, so they planned to go there to see if there was a phone to report to the police. The road wasn't far, but there wasn't enough room in the car. Seeing that her brother wasn't getting along with her boyfriend and feeling quite annoyed during the trip, Xiaoli decided to get out and walk a bit to clear her head. You see, this is Siwan acting alone. And in horror movies, such characters are often the first to meet their end. Everyone can guess. Will he be the first one to go? Okay, voting is over. Let's get back to the story. As the woman in white got into the car, Little Ma saw clearly that the woman was very much his type, especially her figure. It was simply not. Speaking of which, there's one strange thing. From time to time, a foul smell drifts over, like the smell of feces. Could it be that the child in her arms has had an accident? If that's the case, it's understandable, but the odd thing is, no one knows where the smell is coming from. So Xiaoma is quite bothered by it. When they had just arrived at the ranger's house and the car hadn't even come to a complete stop, they had to get out for some fresh air. How could someone so beautiful, comparable to a starlet, have such a smell about them? If there wasn't a smell, he surely would have been able to hold back. Look at this young person with nothing but those thoughts in his head. Anyway, he's on his own now, and looking into that dark and gloomy grove. Might there be something interesting there? Where's Yi? Meanwhile, Old Ma and Laura had entered the ranger's house. After a quick search, they found nothing inside. Just then, a scream came from outside. What happened? It turned out that Ajia, who stayed in the car, had an accident. Aji was alone with the woman in white, and having nothing to talk about, decided to look at her child. To his shock, when he took a closer look, holy crap, the child's face was a pile of mud. After a scream, he vanished, along with the mysterious woman in white. The whole family suddenly panicked and hurriedly searched everywhere, but they couldn't find even a shadow of a ghost. Where did Aji go? Actually, he hadn't gone anywhere. He was taken away and caught in a very mysterious black car. When the car passed by Xiaoli, she clearly saw Aji leaning against the back window, shouting for help. What else could they do? The whole family quickly went after it, and not far ahead, they actually caught up. However, what they caught up with was no longer a living person, but rather a pile of fragments, as if someone randomly chopped them up and threw them onto the street. Aside from encountering a serial killer, no one could guess who did it. Xiaoli was so scared on the spot, dazed and in shock, and stayed that way for a long time until she came to her senses. However, others felt they should call the police immediately, so they dug out the phone from that pile of fragments, and there was an ear hanging on it. Then at that moment, the phone acted strangely too. No matter what number was dialed, there seemed to be a woman crying inside, as if pleading for help, asking who can save her child. It seemed as if she was somewhat dead. You see, isn't this encountering a ghost? But it seems like these people weren't thinking in that direction. Unaware of how serious the situation was, they all thought it was a psycho killer and hurried to her grandma's place to find a police station, which was only about a 15-minute walk away. It really isn't far in 50 minutes, but after driving for 50 minutes, something seemed off. They arrived at a place called Makote. No one had ever heard of Makote, and even looking it up on the map, it simply didn't exist. So one person was dead, and another was scared stiff. Mom Laura was both anxious and afraid, constantly complaining, saying it's all your fault. If it weren't for the super witch, you wouldn't have brought me here. If it weren't for the super witch, you wouldn't have brought me here. The road leads back to our hometown, with the village in front and the fields behind. If that murderer pops up again, how can we live, huh? Old Ma was quite speechless, saying what's the use of complaining now? The two of them started arguing along the way, exchanging words, bringing up old grievances. They said, blame me, huh? If it weren't for you insisting on going back to our hometown every year, would this have happened? But despite the argument, the car still. Driving forward for more than an hour, it still felt wrong. The road seemed endless, with no clue where it led. There was no sign of the place called Market, as mentioned on the road signs. The car was eerily silent, and everyone felt a bit uneasy. Suddenly, something unusual appeared in the middle of the road. What was it? The stroller is strange. You push it aside, and before you know it, it mysteriously returns to its original position. Try to contact the woman with the baby. No matter how calm Old Ma was before, at this point he couldn't stay composed. He downed a bottle of liquor in one go, and hurriedly continue on the road, and then that's not the end of it. To ease the tense atmosphere, he turned on the radio. What no one expected was the eerie sound that came through. It was the cry of a baby. Things were getting stranger. Even the car seems to be pushed by a ghost and suddenly had a blowout. Old Ma braked urgently, and Xiao Li in the back seat suddenly woke up and blurted out, "I am pregnant." You see, no matter how terrifying the atmosphere was just now, it can't compare to the fear of having an unmarried daughter suddenly pregnant. This news abruptly pulled everyone from the creepy atmosphere back to reality. Speaking of which, there's no such thing as ghosts or spirits, it was all self-created fear. But back to the point, this child is also pitiful. The father left even before the child was born. Without little Ma, our classmate almost burst out laughing, quickly slipping into the grove for some air and lit a cigarette. But at that moment, the vanished woman in white appeared gracefully, and without a word, she gave him a passionate French-style kiss. Little Ma certainly couldn't resist, instantly bewitched by her, even unaware that half of his lip had been bitten off. Unknowingly, he quickly followed in Aj's footsteps, was tied up in that black car, and slowly disappeared into the night. The whole family tried to chase, but couldn't catch up, just like last time. The car hadn't gone far when they found Xiaoma's body on the road. Still, it's shattered pieces. If last time it was an outsider who died, this time it's different. It's her own son. Mother Laura was already on edge due to her nervous condition, and this sudden event drove her to madness. Old Ma said, "Let's just go quickly, son. Wouldn't want us all to die here." Laura said, "What son? This is my son, not yours." Old Ma said, "You're crazy." Laura said, "I am not crazy. He shouldn't be called Little Ma. He should be called Little Wang. Do you remember your friend Old Wang? That's the name Old Wang gave him. That year, he visited our house, and he and I were mutually in love. Then it hit Old Ma like a bolt from the blue, leaving him a bit stunned. It sounded convincing, likely to be true, but considering his wife's state, it might just be nonsense from madness. He could only quickly persuade her to get in the car and continue heading toward market. However, after driving another several tens of kilometers, when they passed the sign for market again, both father and daughter were a bit. For a few hours, they were just going in circles, as if the road never ended. What other explanation could there be besides something supernatural? Laura's state was like that of a mad woman, continuously stuffing herself with food, and then vomiting after she was done. After vomiting, she ate again, still muttering that Xiao Ma wasn't dead and would be home soon for dinner. If you said Xiao Ma was dead, she would point a gun at you. No one knew how to handle this situation. Lao Ma tried to persuade her and ended up getting beaten, almost having his mouth broken. Why? Actually, Lao Ma hadn't really said anything at that moment. Even though he didn't cause any trouble, the more Old Ma didn't say, the more stifled she felt, and with her mental breakdown, she blurted everything out, saying, "Don't think I don't know about your sneaky affairs with the secretary. You two hook up right after work, thinking you can hide it from me." In truth, whether it was her cheating first or Old Ma's infidelity, I don't. At this moment, the crazy woman didn't care about saving face in front of her daughter and just tore into him. As the daughter, Xiaoli was also extremely shocked. Is this the time to be talking about this stuff? They haven't even figured out if what's outside is human or ghost, and everyone's lives are at stake. They finally managed to get both of them into the car, but not far down the road, Laura suddenly opened the door. The head duffed down and now it's gone. Once they stabilized the car and looked closely, that mysterious black car, once again, the car slowly approached. The murderer of his son must be inside. Without a word, Old Ma fired wildly at the car, but after the shooting, the car was unharmed. Instead, Laura was thrown from the car, clothes in tatters, trembling, and in a hysterical state, she said, "Honey, I feel so itchy at the back of my head." Old Ma, seeing this goodness, the brain was gone, all empty inside, scratching it incessantly, and then after a little while, it turned into a lunchbox. Lao Ma's mind completely collapsed. If this isn't a hearse from hell, what is it? Could this be the legendary road to hell? Thinking of this, he wanted to pull himself up. Get shot and it's over, but then seeing his daughter crying and shouting beside him, pregnant, what would she do if he died? So after calming down, he could only set off again. At first, the two encouraged each other, suspecting this might be a secret military road. Maybe after going a bit further, they would see signs of life, a town or something, but after walking for a long time again, which was the third time passing the market sign, they could only sigh, feeling that they might have to walk all night. "I'm not going out," Old Ma said weakly. "Actually, I've known about your mom's affair for a long time. That old Wang once asked your mom to elope with him, but she still chose me, which means she has me in her heart, so I never held it against her. But I really didn't know your brother, That's not what I meant." At this point, he was almost in tears, grabbing the bottle and gulping down the alcohol. Xiaoli tried to persuade him to stop drinking, fearing that if he got truly drunk, this forest would never... Thinking of this forest, Ibn Radim, it reminded Old Ma that since they couldn't drive out, why not try walking through it instead? What if there's another road on the other side? Thinking this seemed very feasible to both of them, they quickly abandoned the car and started walking. But this forest was also very strange. After making it through, they saw a patch of light, but the light was nothing else. It was still their car. And that is to say, going through the woods still leads to the same road, a super closed loop ghost wall. No matter where they go, they encounter the ghost wall. Helpless, the two of them have no choice but to get back in the car and drive on, because every time they stop, someone dies, they simply cannot. At this moment, Old Ma was completely disheartened and had started to write a will. Shelley asked him what a will was, and he said there were so many things he wanted to do, but it seemed there was no chance. Just then, he suddenly noticed there was a ranger's cabin by the roadside, which looked particularly familiar, just like the one they saw at the start. So, was it really the same one? The answer was obvious. Indeed it was. However, there was no electricity inside now, and as they lit a fire and observed closely, a shadow suddenly appeared quietly behind them. Old Ma completely broke down, terrified, wildly swinging without touching a hair on the woman in white. Then upon seeing her again, he rushed into the forest, wildly firing shots. A scream was heard, then silence. Now Xiaoli was all alone, her father missing, the car wouldn't start. She wandered aimlessly on the road, and suddenly saw her father's body hanging on a tree, sizzling. Blood was trickling down, and she was almost going crazy. Even if it's a ghost, it should have shown itself by now. Please come and kill me. However, to her surprise, the ghost soon appeared, but it didn't kill her. But the female ghost got into that mysterious black car and slowly disappeared into the night, leaving Xiaoli so shocked she couldn't utter a word. Why did that woman spare only her? A flash of white light appeared, and she suddenly awoke in the hospital. A female doctor beside her said, "I'm Dr. Market. Your condition? Sir, it is very serious, miss. You must calm down first. What exactly happened here?" Fragments of memory suddenly flashed through her mind, and Xiaoli suddenly remembered that last night, the family was on their way to pay respects to her grandmother, when her dad dozed off and caused a car accident. The doctor said the other family involved consisted of a mother holding an infant, and almost everyone met their demise, some from excessive bleeding, some died on the spot. In any case, the luckiest one was Xiaoli, who was thrown out of the car and barely rescued. So, was everything she just experienced in reality just a dream? Speaking of which, this experience was very much like that film, The Pianist's Stay, where everything experienced is a strange dream pieced together by the brain's full potential in the moment of impending death. Strange experience. However, I personally feel that this film is probably not a near-death experience. This should be the protagonist genuinely having an out-of-body experience, with her soul wandering between life and death. Thus, she sees her family's souls trapped at the boundary between hell and the human world, unable to be released. Why is that? You see, the endless small forest, the time that forever stands still, and the road that repeats endlessly, along with the family's spirits, all unaware they're already dead, trapped in the same place, still doing the last thing they did in life, until that car, symbolizing the Grim Reaper, takes them away one by one, meaning their order of boarding the car is the order in which they died. Additionally, why did everyone die after revealing their secrets? It's very simple. They believe that only by confessing the sins they committed during their lifetime can they go to heaven. What sins? Ajay got Xiaoli pregnant, and on the way, he said he was planning to propose to her. Then little Ma admitted to smoking, got scolded by his dad, and left. Next it was the mom cheating, the dad having an affair, and then the whole family went to heaven. Of course, this is also because they hit and killed people. The punishment and the mark that can never be reached should actually be Dr. Mark, who was responsible for emergency rescue at the time. Everyone wanted to see Mark, but in the end, none were saved. Finally, a cleaner found a piece of paper at the scene of the accident, which read, "I want to be the coolest grandpa." This should be the will that old Ma wrote while he was still conscious.